This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool, yeah.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us for our presentation on careers in rail infrastructure engineering. You'll have myself, Tony Mulgarney and Maddie Coyle. We're going to talk to you a little bit about the rail infrastructure and the various elements that comprise the rail infrastructure, the different areas of the organisations that work on that and help to keep it running, and then where hopefully yourselves as engineers will fit into that and the various paths that you can explore within the sector. So if we flick onto slide number 2. So yeah, as I said, you've got me, that's me there, Tony Mulgarney and Maddie on the right. I'll just start off with just telling you a little bit about myself and where I've come from and where I am now. So I started working on the railway way back when, straight from school. So early 2000s, I started with a company called Carillion. Shortly after I joined Carillion as a rail maintainer, Network Rail was formed to look after the railway as a whole. Before that, there were lots of smaller fractured companies that were all doing their little bits. So Network Rail was set up to bring all that together. So I was a track maintainer, basically working on a shovel, lifting and carrying, doing all the things that need to be done to keep things ticking over. I spent 6 years doing that, progressed up to the Ganga, which is like the team leader. I had probably 8 or 9 lads in a van, and we went around and we did whatever we had to, responding to faults, changing bits of rail, anything and everything. In 2011, Network Rail went through an internal reorganisation, and they created a new part of the company called Works Delivery, which was intended to deliver minor projects, something a bit more than maintenance, changing bigger pieces of rail, changing switches, all that sort of stuff. So I was the Works Delivery Manager for Network Rail in the West Midlands, covering a patch of track from Marylebone near Wembley in London up to Crewe, and a little bit out either side, east and west. So that's basically London North Western route, high speed rail. During that time, I took part in the Network Rail leadership programme, finishing that when I was 27. And then I left Network Rail and went out to one of the contractor organisations, J Murphy and Sons, as a senior engineer. So I joined them as a railway specialist. Murphy's are a big civil engineering company, but they also work on the infrastructure. So basically I sit within that organisation as the track expert to tell them what they need to do when they're working adjacent to or on the infrastructure in order for it to stay safe, for trains to still be able to run effectively, and to make sure we're not negatively impacting any of that. I became involved with the Permanent Way Institute back in 2016, primarily because I'd come out of the parent organisation in Network Rail and joined a company where I was the sole track engineer, and I needed to maintain that network and that competence of my own, and the Permanent Way Institute served that purpose. In 2017, I became professionally registered through those at engineering technician level. I'm not sure how much you understand professional registration or not, but it's a process where you're able to achieve a status that is recognised industry-wide and across the world, just basically telling people that, all right, you've got a job title as an engineer, but you are competent to deliver those engineering works. In 2019, I became an ambassador for the same institute. So doing things like we're doing here today, but also acting as like a focal point for that institute within my own company, helping people with professional registration, competence training, and all that sort of good stuff. So at that point, that's probably enough about me for the moment. I'll pass you over to Maddie to talk a little bit.
Yeah, so about me, I'm on the other end of the spectrum compared to Tony. I've just started back at Network Rail on the graduate scheme. I am an aerospace engineering graduate, which you probably don't hear much of in railway land, but did a placement with Network Rail and really enjoyed just the kind of railway family, as they call it, where you're just brought in with open arms, and was in a maintenance depot where you go out on track all the time and just experience what we have to do to keep the railway safe. So that was really cool. And then the sheer amount of innovations that are going on, which kind of day to day, you've got kind of loggers that monitor all of our assets, which really interested me, and didn't realise that that was something the railway did. So I'm back now on the graduate scheme in the maintenance sector, hoping to stay here for a while and gain my chartership with help from the PWI. So I'm a diversity and inclusion champion as well, proud to be, as one of the female engineers at Network Rail as well. But they are a very diverse, bring on a very diverse company, and have welcomed me as well, which is really nice. So I've recently become a PWI ambassador, and this is one of the events that I've been involved with to show you guys what it's about. And then currently, well, about to start my master's at University of Leeds doing railway engineering in January to further develop, which is exciting. So just to go in on what we're going to talk about today, some of you might be aware of kind of what the assets that the railway has. So we've got, on the left, you've got the overhead line structures, which provide the electricity to the trains to move. And then you've also got the tracks there as well, which I'm sure a lot of you are aware of, that will be there. And also your signals, which will show a driver if it can keep going along the track or not. In the centre, you've got these overhead line engineers checking for any discrepancies in the overhead line to see if they're compliant with the standard. And then on the right, you've got some new software that we're trying out. This is called a mini prof, where you measure with a kind of roller the profile, the rail profile, and this is at a set of switches where you can either go straight ahead or to the side, and it's measuring the switch profile to see how the train interacts with that switch rail. So this is a new piece of technology that we're trialing at the moment, and we're predominantly going to talk about today the track engineer side, and so that's very much track world, where you're looking at making sure that the track is compliant and that trains can run safely along it. Tony's going to give a bit more insight now into the different sectors within railway, so I'll hand over to Tony.
Okay.
It'll work. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, great. So very visual slide, but what we're looking at here effectively is Network Rail, the kind of umbrella organisation sitting in the middle there, and around the edges are all the different kind of activities, sub-organisations and companies that will feed into that. So starting at the top centre, the two guys in the high visibility clothing, that picture represents maintenance. So where I started out and earned my bones, basically day-to-day stuff, seasonal maintenance, so making sure that the network is prepared for hot weather, cold weather, all the sort of stuff that makes the news when we don't do it well. If little faults occur in the track, little bumps, we'll go out and we'll repair those. When the lines are blocked, we'll do all those kind of maintenance activities that keep things running smoothly and keep everybody happy. To the right of that, I know the picture's quite small, but that's representing Works Delivery, the organisation that I mentioned I went into after the reorganisation of Network Rail. So slightly bigger stuff. That picture there is a team of guys out there replacing probably 200, 300 yards of rail. So we basically cut a piece of rail out, have machines to lift it out, put it in, and the welders are welded up. It's not as, it's not that simple, but broad strokes, that's the sort of thing that Works Delivery will do, sort of heavy maintenance, if you like. Top right is what we call a MOM, or a mobile operation manager. these are the kind of guys that you might see on these television programs like the running of the railway and all that sort of stuff. They get to go out responding to incidents where maybe there's been a trespass or a sheep on the line or some flooding that's caused issues, anything that kind of interacts with the public or the media. Below that on the right of the picture, there's the yellow bridge with the Murphy flag on. That's a job that my company have delivered on behalf of Network Rail. So replacing structures, be it over bridges, under bridges, tunnels, anything where Network Rail might not have the capacity or the competence within their own organisation to deliver. Companies will come in and deliver them for them under their umbrella, of course. Bottom right, the operations guys, the signallers. So he's got all those screens there. That's what the signalling operations centres looks like these days. It's not all bells and levers like on Thomas the Tank, although in places it still is. Down at the bottom, you can see the guys up on the cherry pickers there carrying out overhead line surveys, renewals, again, that kind of stuff. There's elements that are delivered by Network Rail, but the major stuff is generally delivered by outside parties. Down in the bottom, again, there's a white, blue and yellow train looking thing you can see. That's an on-track machine. So as part of maintenance and renewal works, we have these kind of train type machine, rail mounted machineries that will go out and lift and pack the track. They might move things, all good stuff. Again, different outside companies will run this fleet. Bottom left is a station concourse full of passengers. So Network Rail also look after the stations. You see all the guys in the jackets running around trying to keep things running smoothly, but also that represents the passengers, obviously the general public, our end customers. These are the guys that we want to get to and from where they're going safely. Other customers, left of the picture, there's the two trains. So passenger trains, the train operating companies like Avanti, Great Western, these are also customers of Network Rail. And the freight, obviously, as well, the freight operating companies moving goods around the country. It's really important at the moment that we keep them moving. Top left, another organisation within Network Rail is track renewals, major projects. So basically what you've got there is a great big caterpillar of a train. So it'll take up the tracks at the front, it'll take away the sleeper of the rail. That will all go through as the train moves along the site. It'll be putting down fresh stone, fresh sleepers, rails, and as it moves away, there'll be a fully operational brand spanking new track in behind. And obviously there's a team of engineers and techs and all sorts of good stuff that work along that. And obviously one other sort of organisation that will feed into all this will be the design houses. There's a very, very small photo dead centre of a footbridge scheme, all modelled up in computer software and BIM. But yeah, just in summary, you've got Network Rail in the middle and all these different teams that work together to make sure we've got a fully functional, fit for purpose railway.
Yeah, great insight there, just to show kind of different roles that you can find within the railway industry. So to kind of summarize that, what if you were to become a railway engineer, what would you look at? So you've got all different sectors like the renewals, where if I go back up, you've got renewals there on the top left, where you've got on-track machines doing some re-railing, and those are the big jobs. And then you've also got the maintenance side, where you are going out on track, making sure that everything's to a good standard, that the trains can run over it safely. And then you've also got the design phases, which are more, I guess, the civil and structures side, where you'd look at stations, as Network Rail owns some stations, and then some kind of bridges or new structures that are going in, and then even bigger projects like the HS2 stuff. So and so what do you need as a railway engineer is the big question. Like, I went in with an aerospace degree not knowing much about railways, so you learn on the job, and I'm sure Tony will be able to say more about this, is you're learning all the time, and you guys will have this kind of foundation of knowledge with your engineering degrees and be able to use that kind of insight and engineering acumen to place that specialize, I guess, into whatever industry you go into. But definitely Network Rail are great to develop people and get them on courses to understand things more, and you, as soon as you go out on track, you kind of go, oh, that's what that person was talking about. So it's a great way to understand things. And then the other side, it's not all technical, which I'm sure you can imagine in a big company. You also need to get people on board if you've got a bright idea. So the people management side is really important as well. And just starting out, I haven't had to deal with much of that yet. I'm still learning loads, but it's a big part where you need to get, if you have a big job to do and you need your guys to be on board, then you need a process and the knowledge, as well as being able to kind of motivate your guys to be able to do it. So that's a huge part of being a railway engineer too.
Yeah, very much so. As you mentioned, companies like Network Rail are very, very good at developing their people. As I mentioned right at the beginning, I started on tools. What I didn't want to, well, it's not I didn't want to be an engineer. I had no idea what I wanted to be, and to some degree I still don't. But I started on the railway for want of anything else better to do. But if you show a bit of interest, a bit of a willingness to learn, and a decent work ethic, these companies, they will develop you, they will take you up. I got myself up into the position I was just through exactly that. Opposite to you guys and to Maddie as well. I've only come back to education at this stage. I'm sort of 3/4 of the way through a civil engineering degree now, to kind of provide that broader underpinning knowledge that I haven't got really. I'm purely railway, purely track. And in terms of the managerial stuff as well, not just in the railway, but in your engineering careers as a whole, you'll probably find more often than not, you'll be the only person in the room or on the shift that understands a principle fully or knows exactly what this site or this piece of work's got to look like at the end. So you've got to be able to communicate, you've got to be able to illustrate, the pathway to what you want, and bring people along with you. Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, and like Tony says, with however so many years of experience, you're still learning every day, and that's something that I hear all the time, is that every day is a learning day, and if you're keen to learn all the time, then it's a good place to be. So yeah, we'll keep going.
Okay, yes. So this slide is a bit of an illustration of the various disciplines and opportunities within rail infrastructure engineering in terms of career paths. So in the lovely blue colour down the left, you've got some sort of sub-disciplines of railway engineering, be it track, bridges and structures, or earthworks. Those first three are kind of where I've spent my time starting out in track, and now with a civil engineering company delivering the bridges, structures, remediation of cuttings, embankments, all the kind of things that are in the news at the moment with all the rain that are failing. So my background's there, but there's also the overhead line that we've mentioned, the electrification engineering, and then there's the signalling and telecommunications, the stuff that basically manages the trains, tells them when to stop, when to go, when they can cross over a piece of track. And in terms of core competencies, civil engineering obviously is quite widespread, as is mechanical engineering, but also electrical and computing. All these kind of things are really valuable and really valued within the rail industry. So building on your sort of core competence, the sort of things you'll do that we've touched on, design, renewals, maintenance, could be testing, could be installation. They'll be where you'll sort of start out as an engineer in the rail industry, potentially in one of them sub-disciplines, but things very quickly diversify. You'll get experience of everything. There's a lot of interaction between the disciplines on the railway. And then in terms of further out, your development opportunities, you can get involved in all sorts, be it research and development, systems engineering, project management, construction management, commercial, all these sort of good stuff. And in the railway, as Maddie is probably already finding out, if not already somewhat on that route, opportunities present themselves, things you've never thought that would be involved in the railway, or chances to do 6 months in a different discipline, or there's an awful lot of opportunities to work abroad as well. Network Rail have a consulting wing that operates in North America, the Middle East, Australia, New Zealand, all these sort of places. So many opportunities, and yeah, as your career progresses, you'll find yourself exposed to these, and it's really exciting at the moment with the big projects that are kicking off all over the country.
Yeah, so right. It's at the moment I'm doing kind of placements within the graduate scheme, and that's not necessarily it's not in the field that I'm going into. I look to go into track, but I'm looking at signalling placements just to get an understanding of what they do, and because it is important, because when you are on a job that requires all the different teams, it's good to have an understanding of what each team does. Also, before I forget, if anyone has any questions as well, feel free to ask. There'll be a chance at the end, but if you want to put any in the chat, and we can answer those too, because there's a chat option there, and then yeah, at the end we'll answer any. Cool, I'll keep going. The next part is about PWI. So you've got your railway career, and you're kind of raring to go. It's kind of, and then the next stage is, oh, what now? Like, how do I develop? Who can I meet? Who can I progress with? The PWI Permanent Way Institution is solely for people like yourselves that will be civil and track-based engineers. And it's a great opportunity to kind of connect with people from different companies, and see what they do, kind of how they interact with the railway, what projects they're involved with. And then also you may have heard of already the chartership status, which is very important now for a lot of engineering companies. The PWI can help with your chartership status as well, and build up your development and give you contacts to get to kind of develop further, which is great. And so there's also conferences and seminars which you're able to be a part of as a member of the PWI, to kind of get a broader understanding of the railway. As you go in, went in going, oh my gosh, there's so much to know. So it's a great way to understand it a bit more from professionals that have done it for so many years. One of those is the PWI Tech Talk, which is just a forum to kind of get people together and discuss anything to do with rail technology. So there's loads of innovation going on at the moment where different suppliers will work with Network Rail and kind of trial these new technologies to see if they help the railway and reduce kind of people going out on track, which is really important for safety reasons. And then we've also got the Young Engineers section, which, if any of you would join the railway, is a great way to kind of meet people that are in the same boat as you, because it's a centralized thing. You can just, wherever you are, you can just get in contact with anyone all over the country. So I'm from London, but actually I'm in Leeds at the moment. So sometimes it's nice to meet people that have the same accent as me, if you like, and so I can relate to them more and kind of speak to them in this virtual forum, which is very cool. And it's just a great way to kind of get more contacts as well, because you can easily just stay in your one company when it's actually good to branch out and get connections elsewhere. So yeah, that's us. So I think we've got some questions in the chat box which I'll answer. But is there any questions that people wanted to ask right away? I hope we've not completely mind boggled you. But if you want to, we'll have a look at these. So any tips before applying for the placement year? So for the application process for the placement year for Network Rail, you go through a series of tests. They're like the psychometric tests, which people can get a bit daunted by, but there's a lot of practice things online that you can use to help you out before you actually do the test itself. And it's kind of not thinking, like overthinking it, if you like. And also then you go on to do what I'm trying to think now, it's quite a long time ago. But yeah, you then go on to do a interview and a group assessment where they'll kind of watch you in a group scenario and see how you work as a team. And then you'll then do an interview on like what your strengths and weaknesses are. And it's just my big kind of push on it is just being enthusiastic and getting some insight into what the company does will show really well in your interview, and just showing enthusiasm for the opportunity and what you want to learn. In terms of interviews or applying to things, Tony, I don't know if you've got any light to shed on that too.
Yeah, well, obviously all these companies, including Network Rail and probably most of all Network Rail, have their websites and their careers pages within them, where they'll publicise these sort of opportunities. And all I can say is apply for anything and everything that you see that may be of interest, because as I said before, unless you're far more organised than I, you may not have an idea of exactly where you want to go and what you want to do. So sometimes these opportunities can come from the most unusual or unexpected of places. And this is another thing that the Permanent Way Institute has always been really useful to me for, is as Maddie's mentioned, the networking, the sort of people that you'll meet, be it virtually at the moment or face to face, hopefully before too long. But the Institute supported at the highest levels of Network Rail, Transport for London, all the big principal contractors that work on the railway, and you do get these opportunities. Probably worth mentioning that as students, you can join the Permanent Way Institute for absolutely nothing and get all those benefits right away today. There's obviously quite a good presence across all the social media platforms, and things go up on them, and something on there might catch your fancy. Yeah, so I'd definitely recommend getting involved in that and cast your net wide.
Yeah, definitely. Like getting the contacts now and being able to be known already within an industry is like invaluable. So if they already know who you are when you walk through the door, that's an amazing thing to have. So getting involved already is a great way to be seen and get an understanding. So when you go into that interview, you kind of know what to talk about, and kind of have key points that you can discuss if you've got already a bit of insight into the railway. So yeah, really key to there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're going to know that walking into an interview with a degree or in the process of the degree that you're capable, that you're bright. It's just about getting across the fact that you're keen, you want to learn, you want to develop, you've got interests, you've got a great work ethic. With it being the railway and with it being engineering, that you understand that there's going to be times when you're going to be outside, you're going to be wet, you're going to be cold, you're going to be tired. There's no point in sugarcoating it. Engineering isn't easy. It's a great career and one I'd definitely recommend, but it's not easy. You've got to be the right kind of person. So just putting yourself out there and sort of representing yourself well and making it clear that you have got really good character traits as well is important to make you stand out.
Yeah, definitely. Has anyone got any more questions as we start to close? Just
while we wait for them, probably the other thing just to mention, I don't know if we touched on it, but in terms of CPD, your continuous professional development, at the moment, there's so many opportunities for that. If you've signed up for the likes of the Permanent Way Institute as a student member, there's all these section meetings and the talks that are delivered by really interesting people from far and wide, be it accident investigations, people that are working abroad, or people who've just delivered a really big project. You can access all these things online at the moment. You can sit and watch them either live like we are now and ask questions, or they'll be recorded and you can get hold of them after. And you know, they give you a real good insight. They might show you something that you'd be keen to get involved in, or like I say, even if you just need a couple of hours of CPD to go towards your degree course, like it's a great time to be doing and getting involved in that.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
Okay, well, if there's no more, if anyone thinks of questions afterwards, I'm sure there'll be a link somewhere on this presentation where you can get a hold of Maddie or I, and we can come back to you separately.
Yeah, definitely. But thanks for joining, and maybe see you soon on the other side. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks very much and best of luck.
Thanks, guys.